Welcome to Feel the Heat, a 5 Reasons Sports Network Miami Heat podcast. Hosted by Allana Tachauer and Michael Christian. This is your one-stop listen for all things Miami Heat culture, past, present, and future, on and off the court.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 10 of Feel the Heat. Michael and I are back. A little bit delayed this week with the episode, but thank you for bearing with us. I just watched a very unfortunate Hawks-Philly game, so we're just going to jump right into some talk about these series going on because the Heat might be out, but other teams are still in. Michael, did you watch the game? What are your thoughts?
I did not watch this Hawks-Sixers game. Why? Because I don't care to really see either team succeed.
You don't like the Hawks?
No shot. I don't like the Hawks.
Mr. Michael, this I need to hear.
Wait, first of all, they're in our division. Like, it's not
I'm
just
well
like they're in
aware,
the same
but we're
conference. They're
out.
in the division.
We're out, so I'm allowed to like other teams now.
Also, it might just be because it predates your Heat fandom. Like, I mean, come on, you kind of jumped on that bandwagon with LeBron. But back when Wade was really trying to make something out of himself by just himself, right? After the 06 finals, you had kind of that middle point where things weren't going well. That stupid Atlanta Hawks team. It was Joe Johnson, Josh Smith, and there was a third, Al Horford. It was those three. And the Hawks always had our number. And I think we lost to them in the playoffs maybe 2 years in a row. If not, there was one specific one that just really bugged me. Like the Hawks were kind of that team that was in our way for a little bit after the 06 finals.
Have you seen Trae Young?
Yeah, he's like a weirdly haired Stephen Curry who's not as good.
Okay, Michael, don't think to people's levels now. What are you,
levels?
A Knicks fan? Making fun of Trae's hair.
First of all, that's the rudest thing you could ever say to me.
I know, I felt really good about that. It just slipped out and I went with it.
You really like Trae, huh? Like, what is it about Trae that you love so much?
Ice in his veins, baby.
Okay, first of all, like, he can't be like, ice in his veins. Like, chill, bro. You definitely didn't come up with that. Like, what are we doing? Look, he's played well. Trae Young is a good player. I'm not saying he's not, but I personally, I'm not a huge fan of his play style because he's not as good as Steph Curry. When you get to Steph Curry's level, fine, right? You jack up whatever threes you want when you're guarded by 4 guys and you're still finding a way to score 30 plus the way Steph did all season. Cool. Trae's a great player. His play style isn't my favorite personally. Like, that's not something I enjoy watching too much. You do.
Okay, so who are you rooting for in the East, or are you just out on all Eastern
I'm rooting
teams?
for the Nets in the East.
Oh, Michael, if I knew this was what our pod was going to be today, I would have just rescheduled again.
What was wrong with the Nets?
Where do I even begin? How can you root for the Nets?
First of all, I said the Nets were the ones that were going to take the East a long time ago. When
I'm
everyone
looking
was like,
for a Hawks-Suns finals personally. If I had to pick, that's what we'd be going with.
I feel like that's what everybody wants. Like, that's like the underdog finals. Like, oh, the 2 franchises that never make it, duking it out for the win, right? Like, no. I want to see the Nets. I want to see the Nets. I want to see highest quality of basketball, and I think the Nets could bring that.
I just can't support Kevin Durant. He is an amazing player. His talent level is outstanding. As a person, though, he's honestly the most insecure player in the league, maybe of all time, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. So I just can't back that team for that reason alone. Kyrie, he is a wild one. And I've had enough of their antics. I don't want to have anything to do with the Nets.
The thing with the Nets for me is I am rooting for almost like for a lot of the other players on that team outside of those guys. Kevin Durant, I respect as a basketball player. I think he absolutely deserves a lot of the praise. I've said it before. I think I've said it on this pod. And if I haven't, I'll say it now. And I back this up. I didn't like his move to the Warriors. Never did. I thought that was a very... I won't say the word because some people get all in their feelings about it, but people are like, oh, it's like when LeBron went to the Heat. No, it's completely different. Like, that was already the number 1 team in the NBA. that just barely lost the finals, and he just hopped on that. That is not at all what LeBron was doing. So first of all, not the same thing. But I mean, he's a great basketball player. I like Kevin Durant's play style. I do like the way he plays. I think that's cool to watch. Kyrie Irving, I don't have too much of an issue with. I mean, I think I did a lot when he was on the Celtics, because it was the Celtics. And then with James Harden, it's just like, okay, I don't like you being in the same conversation as Dwayne, and I don't think you deserve to be there, because I don't think his career accomplishments are the same. But there's Bruce Brown on that team who I really enjoy. He played at the University of Miami, so I always have a soft spot for those guys. And I like the way Bruce Brown plays. Like, I like his hustle. He, to me, is built very much like a Heat player, like that. I'm going to play really hard on defense. My offense is fine, right? It'll show up sometimes and other times it won't, but his hustle is always there. I love that about him. And then Tyler Johnson is there. And
of course,
people complain about Tyler Johnson, but look, he's got the fro working for him. Like, I'm rooting for
he's
those
braided
guys.
Up
really
now, actually.
Oh, did he braid up?
He's braided up, which makes me even happier. Obviously, I'm rooting for TJ forever, and I love Dinwiddie. If he were playing, that might sway me a little bit more. But I can't do it. And even though I know I shouldn't be rooting for the Bucks, especially after what happened to us, I can't. Let me backtrack for a second, though. For these Eastern series, what are your predictions?
I mean, the Nets, that's not really a prediction when it's already 2-0.
Oh, it's a prediction. I've got some.
I think the Nets will take it in 5. I think Milwaukee will find a way to get one, especially with James Harden out. And with the Atlanta Sixers series, I think the Sixers are not a very good team. I don't think they're ever going to win an NBA Finals as currently constructed. I don't think Doc Rivers is a good coach. He finds a way to always fold when it really matters. But I'm going to say the Sixers are going to take that series just because I don't think the Hawks have enough on that team to actually take them. Do I think they can? Sure. But honestly, I think Sixers will take it in 6.
Are you surprised that we have completely opposite takes, or is this just par for the course at this point?
No, I'm not surprised. Well, okay. No, that's not true. I'm surprised by your Bucks take you're about to make.
I'm going Bucks in 7. I'm going Bucks in 7. I don't care. Down 2-0. They'll bounce back. I cannot put it out into the universe that the Nets are taking this. I also have the Hawks in 6.
So then is there a correlation between you predicting teams in 7 and them getting swept 4-0?
I'm not answering that. Next question, please.
What was the last team that you predicted? Like you said, they'll win in 7 games. No, don't throw in the if.
I did say the if. Go back to the episode, Michael. Go back to the episode. I said, if the Heat were to make it out, it would have to be in 7. But there was that if, and they didn't make it out.
So then what you're saying
technically I wasn't wrong.
So then you're saying if the Bucks win the series, it'll be in 7.
I'm just sticking with Bucks in 7, Hawks in 6.
Now, in 5 days, when the Bucks have likely been swept, will you say that you said if, because now there's a receipt, right? Like now we have.
How can I say that? I can't now that it's recorded. Wow. And I wouldn't anyway. Are you trying to say that I go back on my word?
I think you find a way to add little keywords in there, like, oh, this player is not very good, but if they improve, I think they'll have a place on the team. Leeway,
just in case. I like a good loophole.
Nah, you gotta be strong in those takes, and then if you're wrong, just be like, I was wrong. Like, hey,
we'll see what happens with this Bucks series now.
I mean, the Bucks. Hey, city of Milwaukee, eat it. You suck. But the Western Conference series, right? You've got Clippers Jazz, which is happening right now. Neither of us is watching it because we're recording this.
My TV's on, but
yeah, I can kind of see the flashes in the background against the wall. It's like giving me a seizure, but I'm good. And then Suns Nuggets. Suns took game 1. You are a documented Phoenix fan.
I am. I love the Phoenix Suns, man. If they could win the title this year, I would be almost, not quite there, but almost as happy as I was last year in the bubble for Miami. They deserve it, man. Between Chris Paul and Devin Booker, DeAndre, this team, and Jay, how can you not love Jay Crowder? Everything he does is meme worthy. Just give me an entire reel of Jay memes all day, every day.
I just want to make it clear for myself, right? Like you said what you just said. Again, this is recorded and saved. For me, there's a large
I said
like
almost.
difference.
I think
right?
I said almost a few times, actually.
Yeah, but you said almost, but for me, it's not an almost, right? Like if happiness is on a scale of 0 to 100, the Heat winning the championship is up in the 90s for me. Any of these other teams I'm quote
but
unquote
hold
rooting
on,
for,
I didn't say that. I made sure not to say that. I said as happy as I was last year with the Heat's performance.
Fine.
I didn't say if the Heat. No,
the
if
Heat's
the Heat won a
success
championship,
last year,
there's
no.
there's
The Heat's
no
success
comparison.
last year is still maybe like 40, 50 happiness points away from anyone else. Like, look, I can root for whoever else I want to win, but they are not even close for me. Like Phoenix.
The thing is, I haven't had a second team that I've loved this much in a really, really long time.
Did you just start loving them recently, though?
I became interested more in them last season. And then this season, I watched a lot more of their games and I'm obsessed. I love everything about this team.
Everything about that team.
Even their freaking Valley jerseys. Like every time a game comes on, I'm like going to my cart. I'm like, I'm going to buy this. And then I hold back, and every freaking time they're just everything about them. They just deserve this.
So then let's do a little pop quiz then on your new favorite team. I mean, second favorite team.
Oh, no. This isn't going to go well for me. I can already tell. I hate when Michael puts me on the spot with stats,
what?
Especially if they're number based.
Oh, no numbers. No numbers. What is the mascot for the Phoenix Suns?
Ew, that like masked guy.
What are you saying? I'll give you another try because that's not a thing. That masked guy, it's
He's
called
like
a
an
mascot,
orange, right?
He's like an orange.
Isn't that the orange man, or is that Dallas? Someone at an all-star weekend sat on my lap, and it was I have a thing with mascots.
Hold on, wait, no.
Benny the Bull blocked me on Twitter. Me and mascots don't get along. There's beef with like many mascots across the league with me.
What are you, Robin Lopez? What's happening? Well, okay, first of all,
I'm serious. I'm dead ass.
No, we need to backtrack. A mascot sat on you?
Yeah. Well, okay. So one team, and it might be the Mavericks, has a mascot, and then it has like an unofficial like man who wears one of those, those like full body suits where like the face is covered and it's all one color. It's like a onesie, but it's skin tight and you can't see anything. Yeah, but it's like you can't see their faces or anything. Like the whole face is covered.
Okay.
Yeah, he sat in my lap, and it was I don't get uncomfortable very easily.
Where the hell were you sitting?
Moment. In the stands, just very close.
Oh, you must have been really close if a mascot sat in your lap.
He's like, we need to look now. Now I'm curious. I need to look this up. He's not, because the Mavericks, isn't it a horse that's their mascot?
I think so.
Yeah, so they have this other guy. I think it's the Mavs, but don't the Suns also have a guy who wears all orange?
The Suns mascot, as far as I know, maybe this changed, but as far as I know, the Suns mascot is a gorilla.
Oh, that's right. So then they might have another man too, which, okay, again, why do you get two? Imagine if there was a creepy red guy for the Bulls. Benny the Bull's bad enough. I have many problems.
No, I have
Benny.
another pop quiz though. And if you get this wrong, we're going to probably fight it out. What's the Heat's mascot?
Bernie.
Okay.
Oh, come on now. I've never had a bad encounter with Bernie. I will say this.
How many encounters have you had with Bernie?
No, none. But I'm saying for now, he's safe.
No. Okay.
Listen,
I thought you've had an encounter with Bernie.
Where I worked before, it was a Phoenix, Phil the Phoenix, a college team. Scared the crap out of me too. He liked to grab my leg. Mascots just have a thing with picking on me. It's not good. I don't like mascots.
I don't think we need to dive into why mascots want to pick on you. Like, I think we'll just move on. Like, it's pretty, like, come on. You're a woman at a basketball game. That's what they go for. They go for women and kids, right? Like, because the kids are like, okay, this is fun, right? Like, we're mascots.
Yeah,
like,
the kids say it's fun. I'm creeped out.
Exactly why they pick on you.
Then
he
got so offended at me lashing out that he found me on Twitter and blocked me.
Benny the Bull?
Yes, blocked me on Twitter. I think I'm still blocked to this day. This was in 2010, but I think the last time I checked was a few years ago, and it stood. And I think Benny changed since then because I know who the mascot was.
I've only ever had an issue with one mascot, and that is Stuff, the Orlando Magic mascot.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only because I go to Orlando Magic games when they play the Heat, and then he pisses me off.
So you're like public enemy number one.
Well, it's because the Heat always find a way to lose that opening game at the Magic.
Yes, they do.
I think it's really only because I'm there.
I
So
think you're
maybe I
bad
should.
luck. Yeah.
But I want to keep going, so I'm going to keep doing that. They just need to get
I
over
think
it.
that you and I should just go to a Miami game in Miami, and then we could be better luck for the team.
I mean, hopefully, do they win when you go in Chicago?
Actually, yes. I've never been to a losing Heat game here. Fun fact.
Okay, well, what a flex. I feel depressed now. What's the other? Ooh, hold on a second. First of all, we got off on such a tangent with the mascots, but that was fun. I appreciated that banter. I had a good time. How about you?
I mean, I'm a little traumatized now with all these memories coming up, but
Well, if anybody
I
ever
took one
wants
for the
to,
team.
if anybody ever wants to mess with Allana, just put on a mascot costume and sit on her lap. Apparently, she loves it.
Oh boy.
The other series though, Clippers Jazz, is going on right now, and you said something to me before we started here that I found quite intriguing, and you said
I should have said off the record before and just completely not allowed this, but continue.
I don't care if you say off the record. I'm still gonna say it.
Perfect. No journalistic respect.
I'm not a journalist. I hate writing. Like, you
You've heard it here, folks. Michael is not a journalist. So what are you? A member of the media?
I'm a podcaster.
Okay, got it. Continue.
Yeah, listen. And technically, even then, you didn't say off the record. So here we are. You said this Clippers Jazz series, you're not interested at all because you find the Clippers boring and you like nothing about their team. Tell us a little more about that, Allana.
There's not much more to say. I don't want them to succeed. I don't find them enjoyable to watch. I don't think that they're necessarily well coached, which is something that you, in fact, also agreed on more so than I even.
Well, okay, but that's a very obvious thing to say, right? Like, Ty Lue is not a very good basketball coach, and I have a strong dislike towards Ty Lue because people put him and Eric Spoelstra in the same conversation, and I think doing that is absolutely asinine. I'm going to use the word asinine.
Oh my God, twin brains, Michael.
I'm disgusted with myself. But yeah, it's just a stupid argument to make. It's a very like, oh well, Ty Lue won with LeBron and so did Eric Spoelstra, so they're one and same. No. Ty Lue's a bad coach. They got very fortunate.
He sit on like a booster seat?
Does he sit on a booster seat?
I'm pretty sure he has to sit on a booster seat or chooses to, but it's very odd.
Well, it might be ever since Allen Iverson walked over him. He just has this like complex about himself now.
Understandable.
Like, and they put up the record the other day. It was like his record in elimination games was super high. That's because he's had two different series where he's been down 3-1 and probably shouldn't have been in the first place if he made better coaching decisions, right? And okay, this last series against the Mavericks, Luka Doncic, great player. The rest of that Mavericks roster, not very good. Luka could not do it by himself. The Clippers should not have been down 3-1 in the first place. So what, we're going to praise him for beating a team that they should have been up on earlier? Cool. They came back from 3-1, incredibly difficult to do. Much credit to those players, including one player we will talk about later. But yeah, Ty Lue, I just, look, get him out of here. I don't like that he's in the same conversations with Eric Spoelstra. That very much sends me, so I'm not with it.
Okay, so what are your series predictions in the West then?
I'm actually going to say that the Clippers are going to beat the Jazz.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I think the Jazz are a good team. I just think they have a lot of moments where they don't really stick it all together. I think Rudy Gobert is
garbage.
I don't think he's garbage. I think a lot of us as Heat fans have this like inclined hatred towards Rudy Gobert because of a lot of the comparisons with him and Bam and all this kind of stuff that everybody always throws out there.
Oh no, my hatred started when we were still in our Hassan days. So
yeah, listen, anything with Hassan, I just kind of blocked out of my memory.
Are you sure you're not just salty about Dwayne Wade owning the team and that's why you're going with the Clippers?
I'm actually probably the least salty Heat fan about that entire situation.
We'll get into that one of these days.
I mean, that's going to have to be a full hour of conversation.
I'm there.
Okay,
help me in.
Yeah, I think the Clippers are going to take it. Let's say Clippers in 6. I don't think they're coached well, but that's just too much damn talent on that one roster to lose. I think they'll find a way to get it together with a guy like Kawhi, who I think is a very good player. And Suns Nuggets, I'm going to go with Suns because I don't think the Nuggets have enough to overcome all their injuries again. The Nuggets are a fantastic team. incredibly well coached. Nikola Jokic absolutely deserves his MVP award. I just think the Suns are a better team all around right now.
Suns and what though?
Let's go Suns. I'll go Suns in 5. I'll go Suns in 5.
That's bold. I got Suns in 6. I don't want the Clippers to win, so I'm just gonna go Jazz in 7 for funsies. But to be honest, I don't really like the Jazz either. If that series could just disappear and like no one wins, that would be fine by me.
I will say I like Donovan Mitchell though. I've liked Donovan Mitchell since he came into the league.
I like him in a vacuum by himself, but I don't like him enough. Michael's rolling his eyes because he loves that word, which is why I used it. I don't like him enough to overcome for me to like the rest of the team.
I just think the whole vacuum argument, like if it doesn't exist, so why even mention it?
Oh, you don't think in hypotheticals ever?
Not with that kind of stuff. Like I won't be like, well, for example, if they didn't, Paul Pierce, right? Paul Pierce sucks. I hate him completely. I think a lot of my hatred started because yes, he's an ass of a human being, but also because he played with the Celtics. Well, maybe if Paul Pierce didn't play for the Celtics, I wouldn't hate him as much, and no, it happened. I hate him. I'm moving forward. It is what it is.
No, but that's a valid argument to say if, then.
Okay, you sound like a programmer right now, and we're going to move on to the next bullet point that you had thrown up, and I will start this one. We talked about it earlier. We said we would mention it again later, but we talked about the Bucks and Nets series a little bit. Currently, the Milwaukee Bucks are down 2-0, and they just got blown out in game 2. I think worse than the Heat ever got blown out in that series. Although, I mean, a terrible performance is a terrible performance. Doesn't matter whether it's by 30 or 50. Does that make the Heat look worse to you now that the Bucks moved on and are down 2-0 and look like they don't even belong in this series?
It does. I still think that if there's a silver lining to getting blown out, it's that the organization has to take a much closer look at this team and reevaluating things this summer. But to me, even though I still think there's time for the Bucks to bounce back right now, it does kind of sting a little bit more to see them because, it's not, to your point, they didn't lose by a very small margin. The last game was horrendous. So to watch that team, lose by so much and know what they did against us, it does hurt more. On the other hand, though, they look dumb on Twitter. So I will take that for now. I still think the Bucks stand a chance. I don't think this is it for them. But yeah, it doesn't feel good to see them kind of getting murdered after doing what they did to us.
I think for me, it doesn't make the Heat sweep look worse because I think the Heat sweep was already the worst it could be for me. I mean, we talked about it last time. We've talked about it before. I was just incredibly unhappy with the performances. I don't think there was anything to take away from it to look at it as a positive for myself. And the Bucks go into this series and they're losing 2-0 to the Nets. I always thought the Nets were a better team than the Bucks. I probably would have picked the Nets going into that series regardless of what the Bucks did.
Did you think they were going to look this bad?
No, I didn't think the Bucks were going to look this bad. I thought the Bucks were going to find a way to make it more competitive. But I thought the Nets were going to come away with the win. And so the fact that it's a big margin, I don't believe in the transitive property when it comes to stuff like this, right? I don't believe that, because the Nets are beating the Bucks 2-0, that means the Nets would have beaten the Heat 2-0. Like, although they probably would have, I just think you look at like matchups and stuff, and it doesn't work like that. I don't think
you look at each series by itself.
I think each series has to be its own thing. A Heat-Nets matchup very likely would have ended Nets winning that series, especially considering the way that the Heat looked. But look at it this way. If the Heat had gone and beaten the Bucks in the first round, they make it to the next round. They probably have more confidence. They have a bit more cohesiveness. They believe in themselves more than they did by the halfway point of game 2. Maybe it ends up different. The Heat actually looked good against the Nets the multiple times they faced them this season. I'm not saying the Heat would have won this series. I just don't think this is one of those things where I look back and I say, well, because Milwaukee's getting blown out and Milwaukee blew us out, we're an even worse team than I thought. No, I just never thought Milwaukee was going to be good enough to win it all. I really didn't. I think Giannis is an amazing player. I just don't think Giannis in Milwaukee is ever going to be good enough to win a championship because I think he is very stoppable right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have the right pieces, you can do it. The Heat did it last year. The Nets are doing it now. I think he needs to be somewhere else to win that championship, honestly.
I think Bud needs to be somewhere else, and I don't think that his job will be there if this continues, because I think that there are just so many times where, honestly, even if you just read his body language alone, he looks lost. He looks like he has no idea what to do with this team. And, I know everyone's kind of joking on Twitter that Bud made a game plan to coach against the Miami Heat, and then after that happened, he's all out of ideas, but it genuinely looks like that.
He had a good game plan against the Miami Heat. I will say this for as long as I live about that series. The Heat also looked worse than they did basically all season. Like their worst games last season were they would score maybe like 81 points. I think that was the lowest they scored in a single game. They looked that bad basically every night except for game 1 and the first half of game 4.
Which just proves that I am a good luck charm. Just gonna tote that out there.
I mean, you can kind of put that out there, but that still means that you didn't do enough for them to win the other games.
But it was the best game that they played. So if we're comparing bad and worse, bad still wins.
Nah, to me, it was just all worse. It's all worse. I don't care. Looking back on game 1, it's just even more frustrating after they got sub, because it's like you're talking about 2 shots, 1 or 2 shots differently, and it's a completely different series. Maybe we're not all as upset as we are. Like, I don't care what happens to the Bucks. They can get swept. They can come back and win in 7. The Bucks can go on to win the entire championship. I do not care. That sweep was terrible, and there's nothing that is going to change my mind on it after the fact. Like, oh, the Bucks were just so good. No, you don't get swept. You just don't. Not especially coming off a finals run.
Well, speaking of that sweep, Heat Twitter has been quite chatty about Bam lately. And some of it, I feel like, might just be frustration. And it might just kind of be a culmination of this entire season. In your opinion, what do you think Bam needs to improve on? Because I've seen a lot of things on Heat Twitter ranging from him just needing to suddenly become a 3-point shooter to, the more obvious of him looking at the basket once in a while.
Honestly, there's multiple things he needs to improve on, and I think we can all admit that. I think Bam would even mention that himself. He's not a complete player. He's a fantastic defensive player. Even defensively, we would all say he could improve, right? There are some things that we would like him to do better. I think there are some things that the coaching staff can do to kind of help him along as well. I think there's some better places we can put him in. To me, the biggest thing with Bam, though, sure, I guess we can call it being aggressive. It's just being consistent in his offensive game. Knowing what to do every single night, knowing who we're going to get every single night. I think that's what really matters for him in his game, because you'll have one game where he starts looking at the basket more. And so everybody starts kind of playing off of that a little bit differently. And then you have another night where he won't even look up at the basket and he'll just hand it off to Duncan the entire game. I think Bam just needs to figure out what his identity is on the offensive side of the ball and stick to it. And honestly, I think that identity needs to be a more, I don't like saying self-centered, because the Miami Heat are a very selfless team.
No, but I was about to say he needs to own his game.
Yeah, he needs to recognize what he can do and go out there and do it every single night, and especially on the nights where things aren't going well for everyone else. He needs to be able to go back and say, give me the ball, I'm going to make something happen. Or give me the ball, I haven't been doing it this game, I'm going to do it now and take us to victory. Like, whatever that is, I think he just needs to kind of take charge a little bit more on the offensive end.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just needs to be more active, and I think that he needs to put a little bit more importance on himself. Obviously team ball is kind of the name of the game, and it's been the Heat's identity for a long time. But at the end of the day, if you are supposed to be the number 1 or 2 or 3, maybe, scorer on the team, you got to act like it. To me, all the talk about him needing to develop a 3-point shot is just, not to say that it can't happen down the line, but for that to be what people are focusing on right now, just kind of, is a little bit worrisome, because there, to your point, are so many things that he needs to kind of tighten up and become more well-rounded on right now, that if people are really expecting him to start trucking up threes. I don't think that that's where his game should go.
And then even with that 3-point shot, so let's run through it, right? Like, let's say he decides to be more aggressive. And so his way of becoming more aggressive is shooting more jumpers, shooting more mid-range, and then shooting more 3-pointers. Number one, I think that's going to lose out on a lot of in offensive rebounds. And I know the Heat have not been a good offensive rebounding team in a long time, but without Bam inside of there, I mean, your chances go down
0 shot
heavily, unless they play him next to someone like Dedmon. Right, and have Dedmon kind of go inside, but that has been proven that it's not something Erik Spoelstra wants to do. And then even if he does develop 3-point shot and defenders start stepping out on him a little bit more, who's going to drive to the basket? Because let's be honest, there's not really anybody on this team right now.
Your boy Ariza, you love when he does that.
Sometimes he has an open layup and then he like pauses for a second and throws it up backwards. Like, listen, Trev, like, come on, bro.
Go for it, man.
Like, Jimmy, yes, Jimmy can drive to the basket consistently. Sure. I'm never going to take that away from him, but no one else can. Not consistently anyways. Goran looks like he wasn't as fast. Kendrick Nunn also doesn't have the best drive. Tyler Herro very much needs the pick most of the time when he's trying to get to the basket. I just think I don't know where that really helps. To me, with Bam, it's about being consistent every night. And I think the number one thing he needs to focus on is that inside offensive game, where it's, hey, the guy's 2 inches taller than you. You can still bully him a little bit. You're still stronger than him. You can still impose your will. It feels like he's, a 2 guard or a guard playing in a big's body. And I know he's not huge, right? What is he? 6'9", I think is what Bam is.
Yeah.
But I just think he needs to realize, hey, this guy's smaller than me. Let me bully him. Or this guy's a little bit bigger than me, but I can still get what I want. Because he can either beat them to the basket with a drive or do something, but he like kind of stands there, gives them one little push. It doesn't work. And then he does a fadeaway or passes it back out. I just develop that inside presence. If that's what you're going to be playing, if you're going to go fully outside, fine, do that, go fully outside, but they need to figure out something for the inside. At that point, they'd have to play him next to a center. Doesn't feel like what Erik Spoelstra wants to do.
It's hilarious that you say that, because my analogy was going to be, one of my best friends used to have a loving, huge German Shepherd named Teddy. But Teddy grew up with little dogs like Chihuahuas, and Teddy never learned that he was a big dog. So every time there were fireworks, 4th of July, Memorial Day, Teddy would get more scared than the little dogs and jump up on everyone's laps, and he'd be knocking people over. And that's what Bam looks like to me. He doesn't understand his strength. He doesn't understand that, to your point, he needs to be out there bullying guys more. And I think once he realizes that and takes more control of his game, I think we'll be in a better position. The question, though, is who else will be on this team next season? And I know we talked a little bit about this on Clutch Corner, but you're like foaming at the mouth. So let's get into it. Who do we want to start with here?
Can I address something though for a second? Foaming at the mouth. When I hear that, I think someone has rabies. What is the actual like positive foaming at the mouth thing? Do you know? Is that just something we say because we know what it should mean, but we don't actually know where it comes from?
I think the latter. Because it's like, I was thinking more like salivating at the mouth, right? Like getting like really excited. But maybe that's not.
I think people would just say salivating because you don't really salivate from anywhere else.
I guess you don't really foam from anywhere else either.
I mean, I don't know. I've never foamed. So that's what I'm saying. It's a weird saying, right? I think I said it earlier, but I don't know what it means.
TBD.
You're supposed to be the intellectual, the writer.
I never claim. I'm a wordsmith. Intellectual is going far.
Okay, well, a wordsmith should understand the analogy.
I will get back to you on this.
But yeah, I agree with you. I want to talk about these offseason acquisitions, and I want us to tackle them one at a time. And I want to preface all of these names by saying, truly, Allana and I do not believe any of these 3 names are actually going to end up on the Miami Heat, right?
Cosign, absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun to talk about. I'm with it. If it happens, fantastic. I'm never going to turn it down. Will it happen? Yeesh. I give it like a 2% chance.
I was going to say 5 tops.
Honestly, of the 3 names, I give it like a 10% chance that one of those 3 names might end up on the Heat. But that's because it's 3 of them. But we'll go to the first one. Someone who you say is boring and you are not a fan of their game, the Claw,
Okay.
Kawhi Leonard,
I
the funny
didn't say I wasn't
man
a fan
himself.
of his game. I actually said that I don't enjoy watching Clippers basketball. I think that his game is fundamental, and there is something to be said for that. He
That's
just
such a
doesn't
way to describe boring.
fundamental. He's fundamentally strong. Listen, first of all, I don't think Kawhi's leaving LA. I'm just going to put that out there. It's not even about that I don't think he's coming to Miami, which I don't, but I don't think he's going to leave LA. Let's pretend he was going to. I can't see him fitting the culture. I don't see him being a guy next to Jimmy. I don't know what it is about him and his personality. I don't really have anything against the guy, partly because I don't think anyone knows anything about the guy because his personality is quite fundamental as well. But I don't know. Is it just me? It would just be such an awkward fit.
So here's my thing with bringing in Kawhi. I think you bring in Kawhi. First of all, I don't know how the team actually would react to that. Obviously, the team wants to improve. I don't know how happy someone like Jimmy would be, given that if Kawhi Leonard is here, the way their careers have gone, the way everybody currently views them, the way it kind of is, Jimmy would become the second guy if Kawhi joined this team. I'm not saying that Jimmy would never relinquish being the first guy. I'm just not super convinced that's something he really wants to do. It feels like Jimmy wants to be the leader on a team, the guy most vocal. And I think even if Kawhi was here, he'd still be the most vocal, Jimmy, because that's just a personality thing. But
you don't think that Kawhi would be out there pumping up teammates or even criticizing them?
I mean, I think the best thing for me would be if Kawhi joined the Heat would be that they play his laugh during like the overhead speakers at the game.
That's the takeaway from Kawhi, basically. Yes.
No, I understand people are hesitant about, he kind of takes games off. And
well, that was the other thing. I cannot imagine the Heat allowing that. That is just not their way.
I mean, they kind of already did that though.
When
it was the Big Three era, they gave LeBron and Bosh and Wade nights off every once in a while where there was some quote unquote injury, but they would sit him. They would sit him. I don't think that's too far out of the realm of possibility.
I don't know if the current era we're in would be okay with that. I also don't know if we're spending all these all this time and all these resources getting guys like that to help the team. It's because we actually need the help, and without 1, 2, 3 extra pieces, we're going to be back to the old team. So I don't know if that would fly nowadays.
To me, it doesn't matter talking about the fit so much unless the player actually wants to be here. But if we go through the hypothetical and Kawhi says, I want to be traded. I'll say this for 2 of the 3 names, right? For sure, 2 of the 3 names, and we can rank them later on. But if Kawhi says, I want to go to Miami, if there's a shot of that happening, the Heat cannot say no to that. I don't care what people think about a fit, right? Unless Jimmy says something like, okay, if you trade for him, you send me somewhere else. And even then, I still probably do it.
I don't know. I think this is Jimmy's team now.
I think it is Jimmy's team, but if Jimmy, here's what I'm saying, right? Kawhi says, I want to go to Miami. Pat Riley knows this. Pat Riley has this idea in his head of a team centered around Bam, Jimmy.
Oh yeah,
Kawhi.
then they'd make it happen.
You really think he's going to let Jimmy come in, power play him, and say, don't get that guy. I want to be the number 1 guy?
No, but I do think that Jimmy might take issue with that. And I don't think that he would have a problem vocalizing it. I don't necessarily think that Pat Riley will listen, but I could see Jimmy very well speaking up.
I think Pat would listen to all of that stuff Jimmy said and then just be like, Baba Booey, step out of my office. Like, we're just not doing this. It's just not happening. Like, look, a guy like Kawhi wants to be in Miami. You get Kawhi in Miami. Now I'm going to go to another name, and I'm going to switch these up a little bit because I think the sexier name I'll leave for the end. So we'll kind of put this guy second. Kristaps Porzingis.
Absolutely not. Hard pass.
Whoa, why so down on the unicorn?
He doesn't even deserve that nickname anymore.
Wow, someone doesn't like
Porzingis.
Kristaps.
No, listen, I don't know enough about him personally, nor will I be fully honest, have I watched enough Mavs basketball over the last few years to fully be able to have a right to be this against him. From what I've seen, though, and what I've heard, I just, no thank you. I don't think that he's someone we should go after. I know some people have been talking about packaging him and Jay Rich together, which we both know I would be the happiest of campers to have Jay Rich back. But if that's the package, I'm sorry, I have to pass.
I'm not interested in Porzingis either, honestly. It's not because I don't think Porzingis is a good player. I think Porzingis is a good player. I think he's in a really weird system right now. He complains a lot.
That's what I was about to say. If he has a problem not feeling like a star right now, he's going to have a heck of a problem in Miami. I also think, unfortunately, injuries have reared their ugly head one too many times with him. And I think after the Depot situation, I do not want to take another risk.
You're not allowed to say his name. I just want you to know. You're not allowed to talk
Oh,
about
you
Oladipo.
make the rules on this pod? I missed that memo. Is it opposite day?
No, when it comes to Victor Oladipo, you are not allowed to talk about him. That is my man, and you're going to leave him alone. Okay? No, I'm not having it. I will agree on one thing. There's only enough space on this team for one guy who you're not super sure on the injury history, and that spot is reserved.
So basically what I just said
for
is correct.
Victor. I am resigning him. I am resigning him in the offseason, and we can get to that.
You may be, but the Heat won't. So you and him can start your own team.
No,
elsewhere.
Next week we'll run through the entire roster and talk about sign or resign, and we'll go through each name and pros and cons of each. I am signing Victor Oladipo. I am manifesting it, as you people say. Okay.
You people.
Yeah, you astrologists or whatever it is, like this whole manifestation stuff, right? With the stars and the alignment and your moons and the risings, whatever the heck is going on there. Okay. I'm making
whatever the heck. Michael, are you telling me that you don't know your moon and rising sign? Because if memory serves, you do know both of those and you tout them very often. Would you like to tell the listeners what they are?
I would like to talk to the listeners about our third option, because both of us are
he's going to keep it a secret. You know what? I like that. Be a man of mystery. That's what your kind does.
You're the one that was trying to hide your age in the first episode, and it immediately got thrown into the comments.
Anyway, on to our third name.
Okay, third name. Dame time.
I had a dream I was dating him, which I think is a sure sign that we're getting him. Because
Recently?
Sometimes my dreams are Yeah, like a few nights ago, I tweeted about this. I've had this thing since I was little that sometimes my dreams predict things. And I woke up and at first I was like, that's weird. But then I was like, wait a second. Is this a sign? And I think it might be.
Are you saying that you have the power of clairvoyance?
So honestly, all jokes aside, I sometimes do. My grandmother had it too. It doesn't happen very often, but it happens. Not to say that this is a sure thing, but if it happens, I am going to take some credit.
Yep. That's where we're at. You're a clairvoyant now.
Max with an X.
You should have. First of all, I don't like when people do that, because that's an actual word, right? Like when people change up the way words are spelled, like I'm fine. But
Michael doesn't like a lot of things.
I'm thrown right now at your belief that you're clairvoyant. It just.
My dreams are predictive sometimes. My grandma had the same thing. I've had it since I was little. It's not very common, but it happens.
Okay, so I had a dream that I would eat a burger. If I eat a burger,
my parents are gonna come after you after this episode. So tough. I cannot wait to send this to Alan and Alessandra. They're gonna love you criticizing this.
Well, hold on a second. I just think the power.
Michael doesn't know what to do with himself now. I got it.
Predicting the future is very strange.
I agree, and it scares the crap out of me every time it happens, but it does.
Can you get back to talk about Damian Lillard? Because I'm going to need a second to kind of like really process everything that's going on
So
right now.
Dame time, I would do almost anything to get Dame. I thought that my highest level of desire was Bradley Beal, but then once Dame
I like how you
came
say
about,
desire in there. For some reason, you saying desire. Are you saying desire and then also mentioning that you had a dream of
this is
yourself
going to turn
dating
into
Damian
another
Lillard?
Mo Harkless situation where I'm going to get some nicknames based on Beal and Dame.
But hold on a second. That's because people picked on you because nobody liked Mo Harkless. Like, if you're like, oh, I like Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal, no one's going to make fun of you. That's
Mo
a very
Harkless
common
is
thing.
hotter than them both, though. So
I wouldn't know.
back to what I was saying. I thought that the player I wanted most on our team, Michael, was Bradley Beal. But now that Dame is a sliver of a possibility, I'm all in. Give me Dame. I don't care who goes. I don't care. Give me Dame.
I think Damian Lillard fits this team really well. I think he has a couple things similar to what I don't like about Trae Young's play style. Like, sometimes that trigger is a little too happy for me. But again, if you've done it before and you've done it very consistently and you've proven its worth, okay, Damian Lillard has proven it, right? Like, when you're doing it over and over again and it's working, fine. But it's like, I'm one of those people that watches a game and screams at the TV based on what I want to happen or what I think should be happening. And I remember so vividly watching so many times where I would scream at the player and say, no, 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 no. And then the shot goes in and you're just like, well, okay, I guess that's fine. Right. Like, I hate having to do that all the time because it stresses me out. It's like I feel like if Damian Lillard was on the Heat, and this happens now when I watch the Blazers, but because I'm not as invested, it doesn't happen as much. But you could just tell by his dribble, you're like, oh, he's going to pull up from either there or
But
5 feet behind
that.
where he's at. It's exciting when it goes in, but as a actually fully invested in it now, it's going to stress me out and be like,
what kind of game do you want? One that you can just leisurely lay down on your couch and watch while you eat your tub of chocolate ice cream?
First of all, a tub. Jesus, how fat
That's
do you think I am?
the problem with this statement. Not that you only eat chocolate ice cream.
I cannot believe you're bringing this ice cream thing all back.
It just,
again.
I actually didn't mean to, but I was just like, what else would one do laying on the couch watching? And I was like, oh, he would eat ice cream. And then now we're here.
Yeah,
I want to be on the edge of my seat. I want to be screaming at my TV. I want to break my computer like I did once.
For sure. I'm more of a dunks guy than a 3-pointer guy, personally.
Oh, no. I love that 3-point wet stroke. Just give that to me.
Of the 3 players, though, sorry. You can't just say that. And the thing is, I could absolutely edit all of this out of the podcast, and I'm leaving all of it in there. We have the E for explicit.
You see what I have to deal with, people?
I guarantee you about 50% of our listener base is going to listen to that phrase and immediately go to the wrong place. Like, I'm so sure of that. But of those 3, let's move on. Of those 3, Dame, Porzingis, Kawhi. I think both of us agree Porzingis is last.
Dame, no.
Dame number 1, Kawhi number 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I like Kawhi. I do. I think now, if they want to be here, I will take those top 2. I don't think I'll take Porzingis too much. But if either of those top 2 want to be here, I will take them absolutely. But if I had a choice, I'd much rather have Damian Lillard. Like, I just think it works a lot better. But we go from talking about this kind of more fun hypotheticals, and I don't know why we're calling it hypotheticals. You had a dream about Damian Lillard, so that's happening. That's a thing now.
I'm unleashing Allen on you. So tough.
100% Damian Lillard's coming to Miami because Alana had
a
dream about it.
Here first, folks.
Yeah, this is where you heard it. There was some big off the court news that had a very strange, and I will say it, stupid reception on Twitter. And that was Tyler Herro announcing that he is going to be a father. Allana, thoughts?
First of all, congratulations to them.
Absolutely.
I also really liked the pregnancy announcement. I happen to think that those photos were beautiful. I don't know if you want me to unleash on this topic or not, so I am just going to say this. It is none of anybody's business what players do.
You know what? Hold on. I'm gonna cut you off for 1 second. Do what you got to do. If this episode wasn't already off the rails between mascots sitting on your lap, where people are hearing things, right? And whatever happened with 3-pointers and the 2 words that I don't think we should use on this podcast for about a month. So at this point, say whatever the hell you want to say, because there ain't no coming back now.
No, listen, I was very heated about this the other night, and I have tried to since move on. Listen, once that announcement went out, which, by the way, no offense to anyone who I guess lives in the clouds, this has been obvious for months. Katya was not posting anything from her like midway chest down. She was using old photos for all her fitness promos. The rumor was out there. Everyone should have known that this was coming. However, once the announcement dropped, what I was mostly expecting were maybe a few jokes here and there about this is why Tyler was a little distracted this season, or, oh, great, now he'll have a worse third year. Do I already think that's dumb? Yes. Do I already think that narrative is played out? Absolutely. But to go after her or the unborn child, we need to be better than that. Players' families should be absolutely off limits. I don't know when people got so bold on the internet to say whatever they want. And at the end of the day, it makes them look dumb. So I'm just going to say this here. I think it's completely inappropriate to talk about the child or Katya. And I hope that whoever was doing that takes a good look at themselves in the mirror and realizes what a shitty thing to do it was.
Yeah, I will echo your sentiment on congratulations to them. I am a firm believer of you do what you want with your life. And to me, family is always going to trump everything else going on. I know as a basketball fan, it's not the best thing to hear, right? You want to think that the team is the most important and winning and going. Your family comes number one. I'm always going to believe that. I don't think basketball is ever more important than that. I think this was the decision that they made, whether or not the baby was planned. That is up to them. They're choosing to have the baby. That is what it is. My issue comes with a lot of the people that were starting to say things like, oh, well, that kind of explains why he was kind of off, or that kind of explains why this and that. Look, regardless of if it did or did not affect his play, that is his decision. That is his life. I don't think it's the place of anybody to say anything about that, just because none of us know how we would react in those situations. First of all, none of us, not a single person listening to this, can do what Tyler Herro can do. Even in his worst games, none of us can do that. And I know somebody's going to hit me back with, oh, I could score 0 points for the Heat. Just quit it, right? Nobody could do that. Tyler had a rough year. I'm not going to back away from that. I don't think Tyler's going to back away from that. Whether he's on this team in the future or not, who knows? His play this season was a little bit down, but let's not resort to, oh, well, it's because they were pregnant, so 100% that's what it is. If Jimmy Butler had been dating someone during the season and they broke up a week before the playoffs, and Jimmy Butler had the playoff performance he did, which was not very good, would everyone have said, well, you know what? It's because he broke up with that girl, and so now he was thrown off. And no, they're not going to do it. It's Tyler Herro's a very polarizing character. We know what it is. Would I be open to trading him to upgrade? For sure. But at this point, because of all the crap that he's been kind of given and that he's had to take for a while, and I will say this genuinely, I hope that Tyler Herro stays on this team. And I know that's going to suck in terms of trades and all this. I want him to stay on this team. I want him to succeed. And I want all these people that said whatever they said about him to just kind of sit back and be like, oh, man, I guess he turned out pretty all right. And if he doesn't, so be it. It's a choice that the team decides to make. It goes where it needs to go. I just think there gets to a certain point where it's like these players take so much crap. And a lot of times it's like, hey, their play kind of warrants a bit of criticism. But going at them as personal as a lot of these things have been at him and some of the other guys of the team on other things, we can kind of move past it. Even when I talk about things like, oh, the city of Milwaukee this or Boston this, I don't genuinely hate any of those places. I don't actually harbor any bad feelings towards them. So with the Tyler stuff, it was just kind of rough sitting there being like, if he doesn't like Heat fans now, I wouldn't blame him in the slightest, because honestly, I definitely wouldn't if I was in his situation.
And it's funny, we went back and forth about the fact that you and some other Heat fans, said that getting swept was embarrassing. You know what's embarrassing to me is being a part of a fan base that thinks it's okay to speak about a player and his family like that. To me, it was, like I said, completely unacceptable. I think I have been very vocal against Heat Twitter for the last season and even prior to that. And I think in general, not just Heat fans, but NBA fans in general, they're losing sight of the fact that these players are people first and foremost. I mean, when the LaMarcus Aldridge news came out, I can't even tell you how many people I saw kind of commenting of, oof, dodged a bullet, or, oh, well, he should keep playing. That's not that big of a deal. Or could you imagine if we wasted, this is a serious condition. He could have died on the court. And especially after Heat fans went through what they did with Chris Bosh, I just think we all just need to take a step back and remember that at the end of the day, yes, it's a game and it's a career and we all love it. But like, to your point, family comes first, health comes first, and they're people too.
Yeah, and I think that's just something that's easy to lose sight on because we put them on these pedestals and we only really see them in one light. And honestly, as much as you and I kind of talk about these off-court happenings, and even today, I mean, this was the only kind of off-the-court thing we've really talked about. It becomes so easy to lose sight of that when, honestly, probably not too many people follow them on Instagram. And if you do, you don't really pay that close attention to it. You just kind of swipe through things really quickly. So it's hard to remember that they're very much like us. They go through a lot of the same struggles. Mm-hmm. It's just, yes, they have millions of dollars to do so. And yes, that makes a lot of other things easier, but we also don't have to deal with, you know, the commentary and the criticism and people constantly being after us on things. So it's a trade-off they're making it. And I just think, look, let's just kind of stay focused on this thing. I think he's going to go out and do his thing this offseason. I think he's going to figure out a way to kind of lock it in. And look, if he doesn't lock it in, if he doesn't put in the work, I will criticize him for it. I will say he is not playing well. He's not fitting in. He's not doing the right things on the court. But whatever he does off the court, that's his business, man. As long as it's not detrimental to his own person, to his own like persona, to any other person and the team, you can do whatever you want, sir. So for that, I said it already. I am absolutely with it. I want to keep Tyler, and I want Tyler to shut absolutely everybody up.
That is such an empowering way to end this episode, Michael. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. It felt strange. I will not lie.
We're leaving with the warm and fuzzies today, guys. We will get you another episode next week, but we also have an exciting live stream coming. Date and time TBD, but you will see our beautiful faces on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel next week. So look out for the announcement on Twitter. Thank you again for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
And sorry, real quick, before we go, I just wanted to say huge thanks to all the listeners. I tweeted this out. We just surpassed 1,000 listens of our podcast in the first 9 episodes we had. I know for some people that's a very small number, and others can get thousands within the first minutes of their podcast being out. But for a show that Allana and I kind of started on a whim, something that we were just kind of like, hey, this would be kind of fun to do. Should we do it or not? Who knows? To have 1,000 listens in those first 9 episodes honestly means the world to us. And we couldn't have done it without you guys, obviously. So for all the support you guys have constantly shown, whether you're there on the live streams, whether you've subscribed and rated the podcast on any of the apps, just listening to it, we want to thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Good night, y'all.
Thanks for listening to Feel the Heat. Can't get enough of your hosts? Follow Allana at Allana Tachauer, Tachauer, and Michael at Michael, 5 RSN on Twitter and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe.